This is the story of the stolen Benin artifacts and the return to its motherland. When you mention the Benin Kingdom, you think of an extremely rich cultural heritage and its legendary arts and crafts dating back to the 10th century. Benin is famous for their large body of historical ancient artifacts. Yet, somehow, most of the art cannot be found in the Benin Kingdom itself. 1897, there was an operation to invade the Kingdom of Benin, capture the Benin Oba, and destroy the Benin city. The operation was named the Benin Punitive Expedition. The British Empire's soldiers sacked and looted the city. More than thousands of historical objects from the Benin Kingdom were looted. About 40% of the art was sent to the British Museum, while others were given to individual members of the armed forces as spoils of war, and the remainder were sold as auctions. The Benin Kingdom has one of the oldest ongoing monarchies in the world. The current Oba, His Royal Majesty, Oba Ewuweri II, the great-great-grandson of the Oba who was ambushed by the British in 1897, started his rule by demanding the stolen Benin bronzes had to come back to where they were taken from. The federal government of Nigeria, as well as the Nigeria's National Commission for Museums and Monuments, have made several efforts to secure the repatriation of the looted artifacts from all the museums around the world in order to preserve the Benin culture, heritage, and tradition. Decades ago, no one would ever imagine these Benin artifacts will return back to the original owners. But now, the story has changed. In recent times, the artifacts are beginning to return back piece by piece to the Benin Kingdom, now known as Benin City, the capital of Edo State in Nigeria. In October 2021, Jesus College, part of the University of Cambridge, became the first institution in the world to return a Benin bronze to Nigeria. In an October 11, 2022 ceremony, the Smithsonian's National Museum of African Art in Washington, D.C., transferred ownership of 29 Benin bronzes to the National Commission for Museums and Monuments in Nigeria. In December 2022, German representatives visited the Nigerian capital to officially hand over 22 bronzes, physically returning 2, a plaque and an Oba's head as a gesture of good faith. In May 2024, the 2 items were handed over to the NCMM on behalf of the Nigerian government by the German authorities in 2022. The Director General of the NCMM, Mr. Oluwabile Holloway, made the presentation on behalf of the federal government through the National Commission for the Museum and Monuments. In a ceremony held on 15th of July 2024 at the Benin Palace in Nigeria, the museum restituted 2 objects, a brass plaque and a wooden altarpiece, to Oba Ewuweri II. returned by the University of Iowa Stanley Museum of Art. I got a chance to sit down with Mr. Olubile Holloway, the Director General of the NCMM, and discuss the return of the Benin artifacts. There's a popular film, Black Panther, by Ryan Coogler. It came out in 2018. Now, there's a museum haze scene in the movie that added a lot of fuel to the debate about the African art resolution. And in the movie, one of the stars of the movie, Michael J. Jordan, actually went as far as saying, how do you think your ancestors got these? Do you think they paid a fair price, or did they take it like they took everything else? How did you feel? Have you watched the movie, first of all?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and how did you feel when that scene?
I know the exact scene you're talking about. Okay. So I think that was a very powerful scene. Okay. And I think the scene perhaps ignited a wider discussion about these artifacts and my repatriation and things like that. While I don't condone the stealing of an artifact from a foreign museum, I understand the sentiment of the character, and the question raised about how these artifacts were obtained in the first place is a conversation that needs to be had, because the reality is that these artifacts were stolen.
100%.
And I think that in 2024, the dialogue that needs to happen now needs to be around truth and reconciliation.
Exactly.
Right? I think everyone needs to come clean and own up to what was done. And a lot of rights have to be wronged. If you look at the 1897 expedition, where Oba Varawen was removed, okay, the tragedy is really what spurred this whole spread of Benin artifacts around the world. 1897 was the actual day that, and I'm sure you've seen pictures of the British soldiers, yes, with the loots and everything. So for me, it's about restoration.
Okay.
It's also about paying homage to our heritage and going back into the past and correcting a lot of the wrongs, and giving the Nigerian a strong sense of identity about where they're coming from, about where their ancestors were coming from, and the fact that you come from a long line of great men and women that have come before you, and to see these artifacts and to appreciate them, for me, I think will go a long way in reigniting that inner self-worth. And I think when you speak of the renewed hope agenda, I think that a renewed hope agenda cuts across different aspects of the human experience, even heritage, even the appreciation of the past. Correct. And the appreciation of our ancestors and what they believed in and what they stood for. I think that it has to be an all-encompassing story, and I think that this commission is committed to changing the narrative and really doing our own part to make sure that our heritage is truly appreciated. Now,
the decision to establish a world-class museum at the Oba's Palace, mm-hmm, was one of the safest places in the world, and obviously will encourage curators across Europe and in other parts of the world to be confident and support the advocacy for the safe return of stolen artifacts of the Benin Kingdom. Now, can we discuss more on this? Where is this world-class museum now? Can we get more details of the museum at the Oba's Palace? You just visited. So yes, what did you see? Because I haven't been there. Can you tell us what you saw?
I believe your question is around the Benin Royal Museum.
Okay.
Okay, so to understand, so first things first, I need to explain that this is a private museum, okay, being driven by the royal court, right? NCMM is involved because obviously we're the governing body for museums.
Okay.
The Edo State government is involved, and the federal government is involved.
Okay.
As well as key players in the private sector.
Okay.
So you have multiple stakeholders coming together to make this a reality. Now, the reasoning or the thinking behind a Benin Royal Museum goes back to 1897. A lot of the objects that were originally taken were actually taken from the palace and the palace grounds. And there was actually a museum in the palace then.
Okay.
Because some of the stools that were stolen were taken in 1897, but some of them date as far back as 1505, which shows you that there was already a culture, a tradition of storing and preserving things.
Okay. Wonderful.
So the thinking behind the Benin Royal Museum is to somehow restore that lost pride and to bring these artifacts as close to their original home as possible. And I know that there are talks around perhaps even situating the museum around the actual route the British took to come into Benin to steal the artifacts in the first place, so that it's an immersive experience, right? And I also want to, very interesting, and I also want to give credit to the Benin Royal Court, especially the Oba of Benin, his passion for the artifacts is quite commendable. And I've had personal discussions with him, and I have no doubt that these artifacts will be given the honor they deserve with the Royal Court involved. And NCMM's involvement also is one of collaborative custody. So we have a storage facility we're building in Benin. It's a world-class storage facility, should be completed before the end of the year.
Wonderful.
It is our understanding that with the blessing of the Oba of Benin, a lot of these artifacts will still be stored in that storage facility.
Okay.
So that the Benin Royal Museum and the NCMM will work hand in hand to exhibit these artifacts to the rest of the world.
Exactly.
And obviously with the support of the Edo State government and the private sector. So it's really a case of all hands on deck, everyone coming together, because we also need to send a message to the international world that we're capable of working together, and that the discussions around ownership, custody, storage, we feel has almost become an excuse not to return these artifacts. So we're saying clearly that there is no ambiguity for us. We're all working together as one.
Nice.
The artifacts will come back, and the Benin Royal Museum will become a thing of reality.
But the return is not the end of the story for these magnificent objects. The story of the stolen Benin artifacts is a powerful narrative of resilience and cultural heritage. The ongoing efforts to restoring these artifacts not only honors the legacy of the Benin Kingdom, but also empowers the future generation to recognize, respect, and celebrate their rich cultural history.